Special dedication to the legend Curtis Mayfield for me using this track. Let me go ahead and talk about my podcast, Wendell's World in Sports. Wendell Wallace of Wendell's World in Sports saying K Pasa, Konnichiwa, Salam Alaikum for all of you partaking in a sports talk podcast full of opinions and debating. This one-man show that's good to go and flow into the everyday discussions about the world of sports and social reform that might affect them will enjoy performing that task, so I just won't shut up and stick to a sports-only podcast. Whether it's professional athletes behaving badly, sadly committing crimes that binds the worst of negative stereotypes, or players who are steeped in the social activities with the proclivity to provide civility and humility in times of need, I will indeed discuss everything from the disgusting and disturbing Deshaun Watson allegations to the embarrassing situation of qualified minorities not getting head coaching opportunities in the NFL, as well as when players discuss social reform and display their constitutional rights. Those are the points that on my podcast I will bring into the light. I will delight to give my thoughts on the off-the-field reality in its totality. If it affects their performance on the field, court, ring, octagon, or ice, the bottom line at the end as I begin to ascend my podcast to a higher degree or level, knowledge and strong opinions being the details in this devil. Should we start to be concerned for Marcus Freeman of Notre Dame after losing his third game in a row? What do we take away from the first game of the NFL season that the LA Rams were buffaloed? My Josh Allen looked like an MVP, and with Von Miller being a defensive killer, this team has shown the rest of the league that they will be hard to stop, a thriller like the late King of Pop. Those are the issues that matter, that deserve the chatter, to be mixed into a batter, to be baked into a sports talk podcast like mine that is so great. Wendell's World in Sports, my podcast is sweeter than the berry named Hallie, squashing any attempt for my competition to rally. A clear and present victory if you check the final tally. I'm at the top of the mountain while you're still down in the valley. And finally, in my finale, I must emphasize that you need to realize if you want to find a better podcast to watch and listen to, stop looking, because in the words of the great one, the people's champ, The Rock, my sports talk podcast is the best.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Wendell's World in Sports, the most unique, entertaining sports talk podcast that you can listen to, subscribe, download, rate, review, most importantly, enjoy anywhere, anyway, and anyhow you watch or listen to your favorite podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most unique, entertaining, and compelling sports talk podcast you'll ever listen to.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Wendell's World in Sports with the one and only Wendell Wallace.
Giannis charging down the lane to the rim, double clutch, no good, tipped in. Giannis tipped it home.
Subscribe, rate, and review anywhere and everywhere you listen to this and all your favorite podcasts. And now, from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, Rip, Roaring, and ready to rumble, Wendell Wallace.
And welcome to Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. A lot of things to get down on and discuss today in the world of sports. Thank you so much for watching this on my YouTube channel, Wendell's World in Sports. If you like what you see, speaking about the single attractive females ages 42 to 49 only, please. If you like what you see, just go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you like what you hear, not only subscribe, but like the video. All of those things I would appreciate. And if you just don't want to see this handsome devil and you'd rather hear the golden voices of Wendell Wallace speaking about sports and other things surrounding the world of sports via iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere where you listen to your favorite podcast, go over there, type in Wendell's World in Sports. That's WENDELL World in Sports. And then you download, and then you subscribe, and then you rate, and then you review, and most importantly, you enjoy the most unique, entertaining, thought-provoking sports talk podcast that you can listen to. If you could do either or, and man, that would be fantastic. I want to apologize. It's been a long time, and I shouldn't have left you without a strong podcast to step to. Think of how many weak podcasts you slept through. Well, time's up, and I'm so doggone sorry I kept you. Special dedication to the greatest of them all, Rakim, the R to the A to the K-I-M. I did a podcast last week, but it didn't take, and it was late at night, and I had to go up to Mesquite to deal with the knuckleheads up there at the high school. So I just said to myself, man, I'm already running on like 3.5 hours of sleep. If I do another podcast, by the time I get things all said and done, what would be the use of me even going to sleep? Then you had to take that 85-mile trip up to Mesquite, then turn around and go back. I would either run off the road or I would commit murder on somebody because my patience would be nil. So I appreciate your patience and I appreciate your understanding. Hey, man, the youth of America and the education of those kids come first because, after all, right, for my generation, they're going to be taking care of us, right? Not unless we want to go to Australia, not unless we want to go to Toronto, not unless we want to go to Vancouver, not unless we want to go to Madrid, not unless we want to go to Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, anywhere else in the world. So I'm just saying, I'm doing my best to make sure that when we get old and we get senile, my generation in about 20, 25, 30 years, if the Lord is willing to keep me on the earth for that long, and when I got a couple of marbles rolling upstairs, and most days I don't know who I am, I want to make sure that these kids that I'm teaching, that I'm educating, that I'm giving the learning ways, I'm just hoping that they can have the understanding to take care of me and us when we get way too old to take care of ourselves. So, yeah, man, I have to do that. And also put on a very strong and very popular and very opinionated and very entertaining and very unique podcast. That's what my life is all about. That's what I do. Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. I guess we're going to talk about some football, right? I guess we got to go ahead and talk about some football. It was funny because I was talking about this over on my audio episode of my YouTube channel, speaking about week 3 of the NFL, recording this on a Tuesday evening after the Giants knocked off the Dallas Cowboys knocked off the New York Giants from the perch of the undefeated teams. There's only 2 undefeated teams left at 3-0. Now, you got the Miami Dolphins and you got the Philadelphia Eagles. It was interesting because I always talk about how fluid the NFL is. And you're speaking about, even though the NBA has 82 games, Major League Baseball has 162 games, hockey has 82 games, and we really think of those sports, we really think of those sports leagues as being a marathon and not a sprint. And we think of the NFL, one of the great things about the NFL, right, is just one game a week, or we have Thursday nights, we have Sundays, we have Sunday nights, and we have Mondays. We don't have 4 games and 5 nights. You know, it's not a situation like that. We know exactly when our team is going to be playing. We know exactly the time. We know exactly the day. We know exactly the date. There is no surprises. So when I say that the NFL should be still considered a marathon, and even more of a marathon, and even more grueling than, say, 162 games of Major League Baseball, or 82 games in the NHL, or 82 games in the NBA. It's a situation where we just don't know because of injuries. We just don't know because of the nature of the sport, the physicality of the sport, the mental and physical determination, or the mental and physical toll that it takes on players, individuals, and teams through 4+ months. It is a marathon. It's a grueling marathon through 17 weeks. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because, as of right now, the flavor of the month of September in the NFL is the Miami Dolphins, or the Miami Dolphins and the Philadelphia Eagles. It's interesting because I went back a little bit, and speaking about the fluidity of the NFL, I went back in August before the first game of the NFL season, last game of the preseason. I was looking at the majority of the ESPNs and the Fox Sports and the NFL.coms and the USA Todays and the CBS Sports and the Sporting News and everybody else. And I was taking a look at their preseason power top 10, or these preseason rankings that they have. And I've mentioned before that there's every single year that there's going to be a team that's going to be at the bottom. There's going to be a team that's going to be middling at the line, or in the city of mediocrity. that's going to surprise, that's going to cause a ruckus, that's going to mess up things, that's going to fuck things up in terms of the prognosticators talking about who the top 10 teams are going to be when they list the top 10 or the top 15 teams beginning of the NFL season. So if you take a look at the top teams or the preseason teams that were ranked in the top 10. And as I said, it was accumulation of many different sporting outlets and, NFL outlets and such. If you take a look at the power top 10, you would have the Buffalo Bills at number 1 at the beginning of the season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers number 2, the Los Angeles Rams, the defending champions, at number 3, the Kansas City football team at number 4, the Cincinnati Bengals at number 5, the Green Bay Packers number 6, the San Francisco 49ers with Trey Lance at number 7, the LA Chargers with a healthy Justin Herbert at number 9, the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson playing without a contract at number 9, and then the Dallas Cowboys with Dak Prescott at number 10. So as I mentioned before, if you take a look at the first 3 games, very small sample size of what's happening in the NFL. The top 2 teams are the Miami Dolphins and the Philadelphia Eagles, who when these preseason rankings came out, were somewhere between Philadelphia was ranked number 15 and Miami was ranked number 19. So now after 3 games, they're flipping the script to say that, oh, wait a minute, man, Miami's the number 1 team as far as the power rankings are concerned after their victory over Buffalo. The Philadelphia Eagles, the way they've looked after a close win on the road to start the season against the Detroit Lions, but came back against the Minnesota Vikings and this past week against my pathetic Washington Commanders, the way they spanked those 2 teams pretty good. Now, they're either number 1, 1A, or number 2. Buffalo, as I mentioned before, tough game against the Miami Dolphins. I'll get into that a little bit later on in the podcast, first segment of the podcast. But, the number 2 squad, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who listed the Bucs as the number 2 team in these power rankings and had them as one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl, which they still might be. Despite the fact that they're 1-2. Hey, man, who would have thought that Tom Brady would be playing with a skeleton crew in terms of the wide receivers are concerned? Because Mike Evans was not dynamite. He did not have good times in terms of his play against New Orleans and losing his cool against Marcus Lattimore, which caused him to be suspended for this game. Julio Jones out with an injury. Chris Godwin out with an injury. Rob Gronkowski out because of retirement. The offensive line, as I mentioned before, makeshift because of injuries. And now you have a 45-year-old Tom Brady, yes, doing things that 45-year-olds should not be doing in terms of his execution, in terms of his impact that he has on the team. 45 is still 45. And as I mentioned it before in other podcasts, both audio and here on my YouTube channel, we're not going to see it coming. When Tom Brady hits the wall, we're not going to see it coming. And he's going to hit the wall, and he's going to hit the wall hard. Because when Brett Favre hit the wall, we didn't see it coming. When Peyton Manning hit the wall, we didn't see it coming. Yes, we saw the great quarterbacks that they age. Yes, we saw their skills declining. But the way, if you remember Favre in his last year with the Minnesota Vikings after the first 2 years he had with that team, especially the year that he was playing like an MVP and led the Vikings to the NFC Championship game against the New Orleans Saints before he did Brett Favre things and throw an interception. In overtime, you saw Peyton Manning few years removed from leading the Denver Broncos to a Super Bowl appearance and then a Super Bowl championship, the way he looked, the way he had to hang on and have Von Miller and that Denver defense carry him to a Super Bowl. We didn't think that Peyton Manning would be that Peyton Manning during that season. No one, especially after the year that Tom Brady had, would expect the drop-off, would expect the fall-off to be so steep. Again, it's only 3 games. Again, he doesn't have his crew of receivers. Again, the offensive line. But all of that is baked into the meal, is baked into the cake. The cake is put into the stew in terms of everything which would cause a 45-year-old Tom Brady, no matter how many smoothies and green drinks that he has, no matter how many TB12 type of exercise and armbands and all that stuff that he has, and you take into the predicament of what's going on in his personal life, allegedly, of what's going on there, yes, it's easy to understand why coming out the gate 3 games in with more than 14 games or 14 games left to play, why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are sputtering just a bit. Am I calling for the demise of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? No, not just yet. I'm not calling for the demise of anybody after 3 games, but I'm just saying you're taking a look at the power rankings, and you're taking a look at the preseason power rankings. If you're going back and looking at the preseason power rankings, no one would equate, no one would take into account the multitude of injuries that happened to Tampa Bay on the offensive side. Defense, they have a good enough crew to win a Super Bowl, but you can also say that about the Dallas Cowboys. We'll get to them a little bit later. The Los Angeles Rams, the defending champions who came into the season ranked number 3. Some had them ranked number 2. No one had them outside the top 5. They've been a little shaky and mediocre at best. Kansas City, special teams and poor offense and poor decisions led them to lose their first game of the season against the Indianapolis Colts, who tied the Houston Texans and lost to the who did Indianapolis lose to? Was it Jacksonville? I think it was Jacksonville. So, this is a situation where we had the question marks about, well, okay, are they going to be missing Tyreek Hill? How much are they going to be missing Tyreek Hill? Can they adjust and do some things without Tyreek Hill? I still think this is a situation where they're still learning how to play a new age without the most dangerous threat from the wide receiver position. Now, if you remember last season, Kansas City started off slowly also and then became one of the hottest teams in the league. By the end of the season, they were one of the teams that were heavily favored to go to the Super Bowl and compete for the Super Bowl. So, and made it to the AFC Championship game. So, of course, I'm not digging any graves. I'm not putting any dirt on the Kansas City football team, but for a team that was supposed to be the 3rd-ranked team, the 4th-ranked team going into the season, they've had their ups and downs. Cincinnati Bengals, they had their first win of the season on the road against the New York Jets, but doggone, man, Joe Burrow is still getting sacked like 25 times a game. I mean, so all of that money they put into the offensive line, it ain't going to do diddly if they can't do anything to get Joe Burrow upright. And Joe Burrow, who already missed some time in preseason because of an injury, and he's getting beaten, and he's getting sacked, and he's getting hurried, and he's getting hit like he's been. If you saw the opening game of the season against the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you saw that game against the Dallas Cowboys, now, yes, you can make the strong argument that, yeah, they're playing 2 of the best defenses in the league, and against the New York Jets, that Burrow was sacked only 3 times, but this is still a situation that needs to have the attention set on it if if Cincinnati is going to remain Bengals and not go back to being Bungles. The Green Bay Packers still trying to live life without the presence of Devontae Adams, one of the elite wide receivers in the game, who's now playing for the Las Vegas Raiders. It's going to be interesting, really, when you take a look long-term moving forward with both Tampa Bay and Green Bay, who are going to be playing, who played this past week with Tampa Bay losing to Green Bay 14-12. It's going to be interesting if you watch that game, and if you want to project maybe a little bit down the road, and you want to write about the strengths or how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Green Bay Packers are going to win their Super Bowl. And very quickly, when you talk about that, usually the first name or usually the first position or usually it's Tom Brady for the Buccaneers, it's Aaron Rodgers for the Green Bay Packers. When you're speaking about the keys, when you're speaking about the strengths, when you're speaking about the reasons why the Buccaneers and the Packers would win, especially when you're speaking about Aaron Rodgers coming off an MVP type season, 2 in a row, tic-tac-toe, 2 in a row. When you have Tom Brady still playing at the level that he was playing at last year, the responsibilities that he was asked to give for the success of the Buccaneers, especially on offense, you would say that the key to Green Bay and Tampa Bay is a situation where it's kind of like it would be predicated on the play of Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. But this could be a situation now when you have the Packers and the Buccaneers relying on their defenses, relying a little bit more on the running game. When you take a look at Leonard Fournette for the Buccaneers, when you take a look at Aaron Jones for the Green Bay Packers, this could be a situation that could be following the playbook of, say, a Peyton Manning in this last year. Not saying that Rodgers and Brady were at the level of Peyton Manning, who couldn't throw the ball down the field anymore at that time. But still, this is going to be a situation, just like Drew Brees in his last season with the New Orleans Saints. This is going to be a situation where, look, it's not going to be about what Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers does, more so than what the defenses of these teams are going to be capable of. And if Brady and Rodgers can manage the game enough for those guys to win the Super Bowl or compete for the Super Bowl. So all of these things are baked into the stew. All of these things are going to be written as far as storylines is concerned. And there's still the situation where, once again, we're only 3 games in. We're only 3 games in. We're only 3 games in. And yeah, a little bit later on, I'm going to be speaking about the improvement. I'm going to be speaking about the impact. We're going to be speaking about the strength. I'm going to be speaking about Jalen Hurts and what he's done for the first 3 games. And I'm going to bring up the 3 letters that should be blasphemous when you're only 3 games into a season. MVP. We're already discussing that bullshit. We're already going there. MVP. We're 3 games in. Come on, Wendell. We're 3 flipping games in. And you're talking about Jalen Hurts for the MVP. First of all, this is Lamar Jackson. If we were speaking about, who's the player of the month for September. But we're 3 games in. I mean, heck, what was it last year? Last year we were talking about what? Russell Wilson being the MVP. At this time last season, we were speaking about what? Kyler Murray? For the last couple of seasons to start off the NFL season, the first half or the first quarter of the season, Kyler Murray for the Arizona Cardinals and Russell Wilson at the time for the Seattle Seahawks were playing out of their mind. Even before he got injured against the Seahawks a couple of seasons ago, Dak Prescott was playing at an MVP level. What happened? How many trophies did they win? How many MVPs do they have? Hell, Russell Wilson didn't even get a vote. So, yes, I know it's ridiculous. Yes, I know it's humorous. Yes, I know it's eye-rolling. Yes, I know it's head-scratching. Yes, I know it's jaws agape to be talking about MVP after 3 years. I know it's nutty. I know it's ridiculous. But, that's the exact things what I do. And I want to get to Jalen Hurts playing at this level just to make a point in terms of that. So, look, we're going to get to all of that, talking about the fluidity here of the NFL here on Wendell's World of Sports, the podcast with yours truly, Wendell Wallace. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to learn a lesson right here. I want you to go ahead and I want you to remember these topics that we're talking about, the topics on the Shannon and Skip show, the topics that they're speaking about on the Mike Greenberg show, the topics that they're speaking about on Screaming A and Annoying A Smith show. I want you to remember all of these because a lot of times on these morning shows or these afternoon shows or these television shows with Speak on Sports, SportsCenter and such, I mean, we're already going over this. How legit are the Miami Dolphins? How legit are the Philadelphia Eagles? If they're going to be trouble concerning the Las Vegas Raiders? What's going on with a certain acquisitions that maybe teams had? Speaking about what's going on with Russell Wilson and his slow start with the Denver Broncos playing against the San Francisco 49ers. But my eyes are still bleeding after watching that game. We're already going there. We're already trying to make these concrete-like type statements. And in 6 more weeks, in 3 more weeks, in 12 more weeks, all of this is going to change. Do you really think at the end of October? Do you really think at the end of November? Do you really think in week 15 of the NFL season that the Miami Dolphins are going to be a better football team than the Buffalo Bills? Do you really think it's going to be interesting? Because right now, there really hasn't been a team except for the Philadelphia Eagles who have separated themselves in terms of, man, this team is pretty legit. This team might be pretty good. This team might be a surprise. There really hasn't been anybody else in the NFC who have really put themselves at the top of the mountain to say, as of right now, we have the sustainability with our core, with our coaches, with our key players, with our best players, with our skilled players, that we're going to stay here. So all of this stuff is going to be pretty fluid as things go on. It's funny to say here. It's funny to sit here because I was watching that game between Denver and San Francisco, and it was the first game for Jimmy Garoppolo, starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers last night, Sunday Night Football. Or, 2 nights ago, And, there was this discussion about man, I can't believe it. What's going to be happening with Jimmy Garoppolo when he comes back to the team? And, this is going to be a situation. I was speaking about this on the audio episode of Wendell's World of Sports, so if you want to check that out. But it was funny because, oh, man, Jimmy Garoppolo, they didn't trade him. He's going to be in the same locker room with Trey Lance. And what is that going to mean? And what's going to happen when Trey Lance comes out and he has a bad quarter, or he has a bad half, or he has a bad game, and the fans start booing him, and the writers start writing nasty things about him, and the players start, side-looking Shanahan and such, because Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback who led this team to the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo only last year was the guy who, at the quarterback position, led the 49ers to the NFC Championship game. Blah, 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 blah. What's going to be happening? Then, week 2, Trey Lance, fractures or breaks his ankle. Oh, my goodness, he's out for the season. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the guy, blah, 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 blah. What's going to be happening now? What happened if he, really takes the helm of quarterbacking the 49ers and leads them here and leads them there, and they're great and they're wonderful and all this type of stuff? What's going to be happening? Is the Trey Lance experience going to be done already? Is Mike Shanahan going to admit his defeat, admit his mistake, and then move on? And what's going to be happening with the locker room? And all of this nonsense and all of this bullshit and all of this ridiculous talk about this whole Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo type of deal. And when I say that he started, I think on my podcast, the audio podcast, I said this was his first start, and you'd have to take the rust off and everything. And, yeah, he played all right after filling in or after coming in after Trey Lance got injured. But this was the first game that, for the practice and everything, he was there with the first stringers, and he was there with the responsibility. He was there with the acknowledgement, with the knowledge that he was going to be the starting quarterback, and he's going to be the starting quarterback for the rest of the year. So this is a situation where, there was I saw a show on Fox, one of the sports talking shows. It wasn't the Shannon and Bayless show, but I forgot. I don't know if it was. I forgot who it was. But this guy was up here talking about, oh, did you hear the way that Shanahan was talking at the press conference, talking about Trey Lance is going to be done for the rest of the year? I've had that type of injury before. I know that type of injury. And if Trey Lance really wanted to come back, he could come back this season and play. But because Kyle Shanahan has made a mistake in naming Trey Lance the starting quarterback and moving the organization and moving the team towards Trey Lance as the starting quarterback, he made a mistake, and now he has a chance to correct that mistake by having Jimmy Garoppolo go in there, and he's going to play great. And all you heard the code words, or you read between the lines at this press conference that he's already acknowledged. Kyle Shanahan has already acknowledged that he made a mistake, that he never should have had Jimmy Garoppolo leave the perch of being the starting quarterback. And now what he's trying to do is he's trying to pave the road for Garoppolo to remain the starting quarterback for not only this season, but for seasons and beyond, and admit that drafting Trey Lance was a mistake. All of this bullshit, all of this nonsense before week 3, before that Sunday night game against the Denver Broncos, who have a very good defense, and they're playing at Mile High. And I understand everything going into Garoppolo, off-season surgery, thought he was going to be somewhere else, blah, blah, blah. All right, throw all of that, put all of that into the stew to talk about that. Did you see Jimmy Garoppolo play Sunday? Did you see that? Did you see him do a Dan Orlovsky running out of the end zone? If he didn't run out of the end zone, he would have thrown a pick 6 on that same play. The Jimmy Garoppolo in that game, and I understand. I understand there's only one game. I get it. But, gee, man, I mean, does Jimmy Garoppolo look like a guy that Kyle Shanahan is going to say, oops, I made a mistake on Trey Lance? Now, I mentioned it before. In the short term, the 49ers with Garoppolo instead of Lance might have the opportunity, might have the chance to have a better one-loss record this season. But, man, if we're playing the long game, no, we know what Jimmy Garoppolo is. We know what he's all about. And we know that he caught lightning in the bottle with a very strong defense and run game the year that his team, that he quarterback, was in the Super Bowl. But we know what Jimmy Garoppolo is. We know what the upside of Jimmy Garoppolo is. The upside for Trey Lance, that's tantalizing. That's delicious. That's tasty. to figure out what this guy can become. And you put those skills, you put that work ethic, you put that maturity in the hands of an offensive guru, a guy who was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta and made Matt Ryan an MVP, a guy who got the only good year out of RG3 when he was in Washington, and then took a 4th-round pick in Kirk Cousins and gave him the pathway to make a boatload of money. No. Trey Lance ain't going nowhere. And Jimmy Garoppolo ain't leading the San Francisco 49ers anywhere. Not this year and not for years beyond when Trey Lance comes back. So all of this stuff, so funny, so ridiculous, so nonsensical. Just speaking about the fluidity, I know I've been bumping around and jumping around a couple of places, but it makes me laugh when they speak about this, when I hear some of these things. And hey, look, man, I'm not saying these guys are dumb. I'm not saying these guys are bullshit. And I'm not saying these guys are full of shit. I'm not saying that these guys are talking out of their ass. I'm not saying any of those things. Who knows, man? Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo proves me wrong and turns out to be second coming of Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Lamar Jackson. I don't know. Maybe Trey Lance is a bust. Maybe there's a situation where Kyle Shanahan is hedging his bets on that. Shame on me for assuming that he wasn't. But it's just like week 3, man. Week 3, we are so young into the season. Let's just calm down. I told you before, the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season, be a fan. Be a fan of your favorite team. And believe me, being a Washington Commander fan, I know that's hard to do. I know after watching them play against the Philadelphia Eagles, I know that's hard to do, to say, 3 games in, no big deal. Dallas is coming, no biggie. And I'm not talking about smalls either. I understand all that stuff. But still, we have to resist the temptation of not overreacting. We have to let some of this stuff play out before we start making these set it in stones, write it in ink without eraser type of proclamations about our team. Wendell's World in Sports, I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you can be with us. So the teams that have made the statements so far in the month of September, Miami, I told you that game against the Buffalo Bills was going to be something. I told you that game against the Buffalo Bills was going to tell us a little something. I told you that game against the Buffalo Bills was going to show a lot, shine a lot, put the focus a lot on Miami. What could they become? Well, they beat Buffalo in, I guess you could say, a incredible home field advantage. You speak about Lambeau in January or Chicago, the Chicago field where they play. You speak about all that. We speak about cold weather. We speak about what it is and the advantage it is for the home teams during that time. Well, just to kind of flip the script and go to the other end of the spectrum, shall we say, is there any other home field advantage that is better than what the Miami Dolphins have in September? Because, man, the weather, the home field advantage, yesterday you put the combination of those two together, played a significant role in Miami beating Buffalo. The temperature for the game was in the 90s. The heat index on the field more than 100 degrees. And they have the design of Hard Rock Stadium. It's designed to have the home teams, be it the Dolphins, in the shade, while the opposing team has nothing to keep them away from the full effects of the temperature of the elements and stuff. Now, the home side for the Dolphins, I mean, it's not encased in air conditioning and 75 degrees and climate control. I mean, you still have to deal with that nonsense in terms of a beautiful but hot and humid Sunday afternoon in Miami. But the fact that the design of their stadium gives them a little bit of shade played a big role. And the defense came up, when you're speaking about the Dolphins, defense came up with several big second half stops. When you speak about holding Buffalo's offense to just 3 points during the game's final 30 minutes, Tua Tagovailoa showing that he can be part of a team that can compete for a championship. Man, if this guy could just stay healthy, this guy could maybe turn into the Chris Paul of the NFL in terms of a great football player who just seems to always be getting hurt at the wrong time, right? How many times have we seen Chris Paul play great, but all of a sudden he goes into the playoffs and it's a hamstring, it's a thumb, it's a wrist, it's something, it's COVID, it's something, right? I mean, is that going to be the situation with Tua It's going to be a situation where, I mean, he's working well with Waddle. He's working well with Tyreek. He's doing all these things, but the man just can't stay healthy. But as I mentioned before, he could be part of something really special with these Dolphins. He could be part of a team that could win a championship. When we always speak about teams, they need to win championships. You need to have a franchise quarterback. You need to have an elite quarterback. You need to have a Hall of Fame quarterback. You need to have a top-of-the-line quarterback. You need to have a generational great to be a quarterback to on your team to win a Super Bowl. Take a look at Tom Brady. Take a look at Peyton Manning. Take a look at Patrick Mahomes. Take a look at all these guys who are winning Super Bowls. That's the most important position on the field, speaking about the quarterback. So you need them on the team to do anything. If you have a bum as a quarterback, you ain't going anywhere. I don't give a damn how great the defense is. I don't give a damn how talented the running back and other skill players are. I don't give a damn how great the coaching is. Oh, I'm sorry, how many championships have Bill Belichick won since Tom Brady left or before Tom Brady came to the Patriots? Oh, I'm sorry. Oops, that would be 0. Now, as a defensive coordinator, Jeff Hostetler, Phil Simms, he won a couple of Super Bowls with that, along for the ride. But for the most part, in the new way that they play football, where we're not playing a game of football like it was in the 90s, where someone like a Jeff Hostetler could come in late in the season, replace Phil Simms, and win a Super Bowl based on the defense of Lawrence Taylor and such. Different ways. You need a franchise quarterback. Not true. Not true. It's important, yes. But it's not a situation where if you have a good quarterback, you can't win a championship. Does having a franchise quarterback, Hall of Fame quarterback, does those things improve your chances? Absolutely. But one of the greatest quarterbacks of our generation, Aaron Rodgers, going into the Hall of Fame, one of the greatest quarterbacks who's ever played. How many Super Bowls does he have? 1? How many Super Bowls should he have won? More? And then you could talk about the lack of weaponry that he has at the wide receivers and running back position throughout his career, this, that, and the other. He's had the defense. He's had the coaching to get himself a championship, to get himself a Super Bowl. He never has. What I'm trying to say is that there's more ways to skin a cat. There's more ways to win a Super Bowl. There's more ways to put your franchise in a position to win a Super Bowl other than having a Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers type of quarterback, a Drew Brees type of quarterback, a Peyton Manning type of quarterback, who for the longest of time, his brother Eli had more Super Bowls than Peyton before he caught up and surpassed him near the end of his career and really passed him with the showing that he had being carried to the finish line in the 2015 season and winning that Super Bowl. So when we take a look at Tua, and we take a look at the potential, and he's always going to be equated. He's always going to be measured to Justin Herbert, right? Because Justin Herbert's supposed to be that guy. Justin Herbert is supposed to be the next Aaron Rodgers. He's supposed to be the next Tom Brady. He's supposed to be the next Drew Brees. He's supposed to be the next Peyton Manning. He's supposed to be that next guy that's going to be that franchise quarterback. He's supposed to be up there on the same level with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes in terms of the impact that he can have on a team to put a franchise on his shoulders and lead them to a Super Bowl, right? Isn't that what Justin Herbert is all about? Isn't that what the potential is for Justin Herbert, right? So Tua and Herbert, who were there in the same draft class, and Tunga Valoa was drafted before Justin, he's always going to have to be living up to, well, yeah, this, that, and the other, but, man, the Dolphins could have had Herbert, and, man, just think how many championships they could have won, or just think how more successful they could have been if Herbert was the quarterback instead of Tua. Tua is showing the opportunity. Tua, I think, is showing that he can do what Peyton Manning did with the Denver Broncos his last season in 2015 and winning the Super Bowl. Tua is showing that he can do. He had the opportunity to do what Jared Goff did for the Los Angeles Rams and being the quarterback for them in Super Bowl 53, losing to the Patriots 13-3, and then Sean McVay figuring out I need to get myself another quarterback. But he could be Tua, what Jimmy Garoppolo was for the San Francisco 49ers, being the MVP in the Super Bowl for them in 2019, almost a play away from winning themselves a Super Bowl with Garoppolo at the quarterback and being in the lead for the majority of time in the NFC Championship game. Tua with the structure, Tua with the players, Tua with the defense that he has around him shows that he could be that guy. Show that there's another avenue. There's another destination. There's another direction that you can go to win yourself a Super Bowl. And I'm quite sure that he won his teammates over by showing some toughness when he left the game in the first half after a head injury that left him wobbling on the field as he was, he was bobbing and weaving and falling around like Trevor Burbick when he got knocked down and knocked out by Mike Tyson, and he was stumbling, fumbling, bubbling all over the ring in Vegas. That's what Tua was doing. But he returned at the start of the second half, led the Dolphins to the half's only touchdown, and that ended up being the difference in the game. For the Buffalo Bills, look, man, speaking about them here on Wendell's World of Sport, the podcast with yours truly, Wendell Wallace. Buffalo, what does it mean? Because as I mentioned before, now you take a look at some of the power rankings, it's the Miami Dolphins who are ranked ahead of the Buffalo Bills based on this victory. What does it mean after only 3 weeks into the season? Come on, y'all. It means that it's bullshit because I still think when it's winning time, when it's playoff times, and I already spoke about the long season and this could happen and that could happen, so you never know, I'm just going to project that when it comes to winning time, playoff time, cold weather time, November, December, January time, that the Buffalo Bills are going to be past the Miami Dolphins. Look, the Bills were without 6 players who started a game this year due to injury. They dealt with 7 others missing playing time or leaving the game. Right tackle Spencer Brown, he left the game and didn't return with what the Bills diagnosed as heat illness. Again, one of the best home field advantages in September. Welcome to Miami. Reserve right guard Ryan Bates and center Greg Van Roten, who was subbing for another starter who was injured, was apparently also impacted by the conditions and missed significant game time because of that. Buffalo started the day with several players ruled out with injury, including Micah Hyde, who's going to be out for the rest of the year with a neck injury. And through all of that nonsense, through all of that stuff, through all of those obstacles, the Bills still had a chance to win the game. They dominated the time of possession against Miami, over 40 minutes compared to 19 in terms of time of possession. 2 second-half Bill possessions consisted of 37 plays, 160 yards, while taking over 17 minutes off the clock. They only came up with 3 total points. So big picture, you could, look, a win's a win for Miami. Nothing to be ashamed about, nothing to be embarrassed about, nothing to explain yourself about. But you could easily categorize this as the Bills, and yes, I know that the Dolphins had the butt punt and all those type of things, gave the Bills the opportunity. I still think that this was a situation where the Buffalo Bills snatched defeat from the jaws of victory and give Miami credit for putting them in the position to do so. But I still think this is just a situation where Buffalo is the better team than Miami, and I just think that you're going to have to rewrite the script to say that the Dolphins are going to provide some more competition for the Bills in the AFC East division. Now, I think that if this was going to be a situation where who was going to challenge the Bills' supremacy for this season, you would have picked the New England Patriots. New England lost. We don't know exactly with the high ankle sprain with Mac Jones. Mac Jones. He's got a sprained ankle going on. So we don't know about that. So, I still think that Buffalo is going to get it done, but it's going to be Miami that's going to push them to maintain their level of excellence, maintain their level of concentration to play at their best, not the New England Patriots. Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. Speaking about the other team that's shocking the world, as the greatest one said, the Philadelphia Eagles over my Washington Commanders, 24-8. The Eagles defense sacked former Philadelphia Eagle, former quarterback who was supposed to be the face of the franchise, the face of the league, but guy who was supposed to be taking the Eagles to championships, conference championships, division title championships, Super Bowl championships. He was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to be winning MVP. He was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to be labeled as the franchise quarterback. He was supposed to be the guy that was going to be the face of the league to introduce fans who might not like football as far as the NFL concerned and bring them back in at a time where the NFL was just a little bit dipping in popularity. Carson Wentz was supposed to be the savior. Carson Wentz was supposed to be the guy. Carson Wentz was going to be the guy that was going to be the beacon of light and the superstar and the main star of the NFL. Well, Carson Wentz took a different tour, and it wasn't 3 hours either. The defense for the Eagles sacked him a career-high 9 times, including 6 in the first half. A lot of holding the ball way too long from Wentz that attributed to the high sack total. But, you know, look, through the first 3 games of the season, Philadelphia leads the league in total offense, ranked 3rd in passing yards, or 5th in total defense. On defense, counting the Week 2 win over the Minnesota Vikings, the Eagles' defense has allowed 7 points in 6 quarters. That's pretty doggone good. Jalen Hurts continues to shine as the starting quarterback for the Eagles. First half against Washington, had 279 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. That was almost 6 times the yardage Washington had as a team before halftime. Yes, I'm still a Washington Commander fan. It's like when Michael Steele asked, "Are you still a Republican?" And he's like, "Yeah, ain't proud of it, ain't happy about it, but I'm sticking around because, you know, Republican born, Republican bred, and when I die, I'll probably be Republican dead." Well, that's me with my Washington Commanders through thick and thin. Commanders born, but well, I guess what you say, Redskins born and Redskins bred, and when I die, I'll be Commanders dead. His counterpart, Jalen Hurts, his quarterback, counterpart, Carson Wentz with 3 for 10, 24 yards in the first half, while Hurts was throwing 3 touchdowns and throwing for 279 yards. And I mentioned it before. Hurts is playing like an MVP caliber top 5 QB through the first 3 games. That's absurd. That's ridiculous. That's asinine to use the letters NMVP. Not even Montavious, not even the other MVP. My man who was dealing with Bobby Lashley and Omos in the WWE. That's just ridiculous. If you're speaking about MVP, that should be the MVP. That should be the only MVP that we should be talking about. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because everything that Jalen Hurts has been through. And look, he's a big boy. He's making millions of dollars. Smart guy, good high character guy. Doesn't seem like a dummy. Doesn't seem like he's going to Andre Rison or Bernie Kosar his money. So, you know, I'm not shedding tears for the journey, for the path that Jalen Hurts had to take after being drafted in the 2nd round to be nothing more than Carson Wentz's backup. Nobody in Philadelphia was expecting Jalen Hurts to supplant Carson Wentz as the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was just a situation where, hey, look, in the league that we have today in Carson Wentz's injury history, we need a good backup quarterback, and that's what Jalen Hurts was drafted to be, a backup quarterback. And now he's the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Carson Wentz now is on his 2nd team in 2 years, or 3rd team in 3 years. No real concrete situation if Carson Wentz is going to remain the starting quarterback. If he flames, if he bombs this season, him and Baker Mayfield, it might take years for them to get back into a position where they are a starting quarterback for a franchise if things don't turn around for both of those guys, along with Jameis Winston. But for Hurts, he was still a question mark, and he still is. We're sitting up here talking about an MVP season for Jalen Hurts. I still bet you that there's some folks still drinking a haterade and still have some question marks on Jalen Hurts, whether he still can be the long-term answer for the Philadelphia Eagles. And guess what? This dummy right here is one of them. If he's the right quarterback to have long-term for the future success for the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, when you speak about the young, really good quarterbacks in the league, of course we're going to put in Patrick Mahomes. Of course we're going to put in Justin Herbert. Of course we're going to put in Lamar Jackson. Of course we're going to put in Josh Allen. Of course we're going to put those guys in there. Am I ready to throw in Jalen Hurts? Does that make any sense? Does that fit properly? Josh Allen, yeah. Patrick Mahomes, yeah. Lamar Jackson, yeah. Depending upon how he comes back from his suspension. Deshaun Watson, yeah. The way he's been playing so far and the pedigree that he had coming into the NFL. Trevor Lawrence, yeah. Justin Herbert, yeah. I could see that. I could see that VIP section. I could see that dinner table. I could see that party. You're going to include Jalen Hurts in that? That's still the dilemma. That's still the nonsense that Jalen Hurts has to deal with. Reports had him on the offseason trade talks with the Eagles trying to acquire, kicking the tires on Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. Jalen Hurts is still dealing with that nonsense. Jalen Hurts is still dealing with that bullguggery. So, that's one of the reasons why I just say as of right now, more in terms of speaking about, more in terms of, I don't even think we need to be speaking about Jalen Hurts or anybody, Lamar Jackson, anybody as far as MVP so far. Lamar Jackson is playing out of his mind. But still, we got to wait. We got to wait. Hey, man, this is just like chop. Just because you won the appetizer round doesn't mean you won't get chop in the main course or the dessert, especially when Alex Bornicelli is one of the judges. Especially when my man, not Bobby Flay, he's not one of the judges, but when my man Jeffrey Zakarian is one of the judges. There's no guarantee because you knocked it out the park in the appetizer round that all of a sudden now you're going to be taking home that $10,000 and be a chop champion. Jalen Hurts, we don't know about him. Lamar Jackson, we're going to go on the assumption that his appetizers were fantastic, and based on his play and based on his skills, that the main course and the dessert are going to be delicioso, but we don't know. We don't know. It's a long season. Lamar Jackson continues to make the case that you're going to have to pay him bank, that you're going to have to pay him big bank. You know what I'm saying? The way that he's playing. But we don't know. We don't know. Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host. I'm your host of this podcast. I guess we got to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, right? I don't know where we need to go with the Dallas Cowboys in this situation. They have a defense that can win a championship. Micah Parsons is, I don't know, already up there, I think, with Aaron Donald as one of the most disruptive, impactful defensive players in the game. And what's this, only his second year or some nonsense like that? DeMarcus Lawrence getting all over the offensive line for the New York Giants and such. But, I'm glad that Cooper Rush is doing a great job. The Cowboys now 2-0 with him as the starting quarterback. But if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles looking at those two teams play, after we whooped up on the Commanders at home and turned FedEx Field into Fly Eagles Fly Field, and emasculated the Commanders like they did. I'm taking a look at what we did on Sunday with the Commanders. I'm taking a look at that game on Monday Night Football. And while I'm a little bit concerned about that defense, if I'm the Eagles, I'm like, man, if we keep the course, we're going to rule this division this year, baby. I don't know what to make of Daniel Jones because the offensive line stunk. DeMarcus Lawrence, I don't know. How many sacks did he have? 15? I mean, we didn't. The Cowboys didn't even get Micah Parsons really engaged in terms of having a real impact on the game. And Daniel Jones was running for his life. What was you pressured, like 25 times? So something else, man. Dan Quinn, if he continues what he's doing, man, I tell you one thing. He's going to have a job somewhere. He's going to get an opportunity to have a job somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be Arizona. I don't know if it's going to be Carolina, but he's going to be in play for something. Because that defense is tough. Tony Pollard, the offensive line, did great jobs opening it up for Tony Pollard, who seems to be a much more effective and efficient and reliable and dangerous weapon than Ezekiel Elliott. CeeDee Lamb, after dropping an easy touchdown pass, he came back and made his presence felt in the fourth quarter. It was an ugly game to watch. A lot of times because of really the ineptitude. I thought the officiating was shaky at best. It was just a bad, I don't know, it just wasn't something that made me be inspired to say that the Dallas Cowboys in the totality of a team is going to be something there to where they can get the job done. Zach Prescott is supposed to be coming back, and when you're making the money that Prescott is making, when he's averaging over $40 million, the fact that the Cowboys aren't stacked at the skill position, they should still have enough to be contenders. But as I think it was Troy Aikman or Joe Buck was mentioning, the fact that, hey, man, over the last 10, 15 years or so, the Dallas Cowboys have had the 8th best record in the NFL and only won 2 playoff games. With Mike McCarthy as the head coach, with that offense, are they going to be able to break through? We don't know. It's only week 3. We don't know what's going to become of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We don't know how the offense is going to evolve and adjust with the Green Bay Packers. We don't know how strong or the running game or what Deebo Samuel is going to do with the San Francisco 49ers. We don't know. We don't. I have no idea what's going to be happening with the New Orleans Saints, who look like they have a defense that could be doing some things. But, man, Jameis Winston as your quarterback, good Lord have mercy. Do you really trust that guy, or would you really put that guy in the position to be winning championships? I wouldn't, based on what we've seen so far. Again, over 3 games, that you bring it back to what he did with the Saints last season, and then, of course, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Precedence has it that, the turnaround for Winston to become that guy who can lead a team or be part of a team that can win a championship, I don't see it. I really don't see it. Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. Hey, I want to go ahead and add another coach to a possible hot seat situation, along with Cliff Kingsbury out there in Arizona, and Matt Rule, and, of course, Mike McCarthy. I think you can add Ron Rivera to the list. Now, when I say put him on a possible hot seat, I'm not saying we should have the discussions about firing him or anything like that. I'm just saying you got that chip, you put it somewhere close. Don't bring it out just yet, because we're 3 games in. But we need to have that chip. Bill Belichick doesn't need that chip. Andy Reid doesn't need that chip. The Mike Tomlin doesn't need that chip. Cliff Kingsbury, Matt Rule, Mike McCarthy, and now Ron Rivera, they need that chip, because Rivera is 26-35 in his last 4 full seasons as an NFL head coach. He's 15-21 so far with the football team / Commanders in 2 and a little bit plus seasons. So I don't know, man. Again, I'm not saying that he needs to be fired or anything like that, but we're going to hold off on that. I talked about Brett Favre a little bit on the audio podcast about him swindling money from Mississippians so he can build a practice facility or a facility for the volleyball team at Southern Miss. You can listen to that. I'm tired of Favre. Don't want to talk about Favre. Have no interest in Favre. He can go ahead and start, he can go ahead and use copper fit and all those type of things. I hope he can do it while he's in jail. So if you want to listen to that, go ahead to my audio podcast, because I spoke about that. But I want to get to now, because my wifey is back home. My Halle Berry is back home. My Layla Roshan is back home. My Monica Bellucci is back home. My Selma Hayek is back home. What I mean by that is the love of my life in terms of sports leagues are concerned. The NBA are now back in town, because training camps start this week. And already some news. I spoke about Robert Sarver on my audio podcast last week about the suspension that he got. Well, we're going to be speaking about Udoka, Ime Udoka, and his situation with the Boston Celtics. So it's no longer a situation. He's done for the entire season. It's going to be interesting to see if he's ever going to coach again for the Boston Celtics. And finally, some justice, finally some good news for the NBA. Robert Sarver has agreed to sell his majority share of the Phoenix Suns, because poor Robbie. I mean, when you're a billionaire like that, and you're a bigot, and you're a jackass, and you're an asshole, and you're a prick, and you're privileged, and you're an arrogant son of a bitch, and You know, you don't get a second chance after basically being all those threes and creating a hostile, toxic workplace environment for almost 20 years. Poor Robbie. He's the victim. He is the innocent man here. He is the poor guy that we need the violin for, that we need to play the harp for, that we should shed a tear for, that we should get the Bible thumpers and try to redeem and show us that he's really a good guy, that he's really misunderstood, that behind closed door, that he's really a fun, awesome, wonderful human being. Martin Luther Sarver. Poor guy. So we'll speak about all that, and we might even hit college football just a tad. Oklahoma losing again. What's going on, Eric G? You and Coach Jones better be hitting that hard, shall we say. Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. Let me go ahead and boogie. I'll be back with y'all in just a second.
Brand new funk. Tell us about it. Brand new funk. All right. Brand new funk. Tell us about it. Brand new funk. All right. Brand new funk. Tell us about it. Brand new funk. All right. Brand new funk. You wanna get down? Tell us about it. Brand new funk. All right.
Live from Bedford Stuyvesant, the livest one. Representing BK to the fullest. Gats I pull it. Bastards ducking when Big B bucking. Chicken heads be clucking in my bathroom fucking. It ain't nothing. They know Big B handling with the Mac in the act ball paneling. Bandaging MCs. Oxygen they can't breathe. Mad tricks up the sleeve. Red boxes so my dick can breathe. Reach through in the Q45 by my side. Lyrical high. And those that brushes my clutches get put on crutches. Get smoked like touches from the master. Hate to blast ya, but I have to. You see I smoke a lot. Your life is played out like Farming and them fucking polka dots.
And welcome back to Wendell's World of Sports, the last segment of the podcast, the last segment of the program. Thank you so doggone much for watching. If you want to, again, listen to the most unique, entertaining, thought-provoking sports talk podcast that you can listen to, go over to my audio. Go over and listen anywhere where you listen to your favorite podcast, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, Amazon. Subscribe, rate, download, review, follow, do all those type of things. And, man, my shoulder is killing me. My shoulder is killing me. How about this? I keep telling these kids, I keep telling the Kayleys, and I keep telling the Anthonys, and I keep telling the Chases and the Camerons and all them young folks. I keep telling them folks, man, y'all ain't going to be this young forever. Enjoy the health. Enjoy it because, man, when you get old and broken down and run down like me, Sunday I was watching football, right? I fall asleep for about 15 minutes, right? Because I finished eating breakfast. Every time I eat breakfast, I don't care what I'm eating. I had a nice, wonderful breakfast burrito with eggs and avocados and tomatoes. It was delicious. And then I topped it off with some pancakes, right? It was delicious. 15 minutes later, I'm out for about 20 minutes. I wake up, my whole shoulder, right down from here all the way down to here, it's just killing me. I can't even lift. I mean, this is even sore. This happened Sunday. I'm recording this on a Tuesday, and it's still going to be sore. Hopefully, by Thursday, it can be done because I got to get back to the gym and lose this weight. So I keep telling these kids, I keep telling my buddies, come on, man. Y'all ain't going to be looking this good. Y'all ain't going to be this skinny. Y'all ain't going to be this fried. Y'all ain't going to be this energetic when you get to be my age. Man, enjoy your health while you can. I keep telling them. Growing old mentally, fantastic. It's the best thing that can ever happen. Growing old physically, it sucks. And yes, I know it's only going to get worse. But, knowledge is king. So teaching my gal, teaching my buddy Kaylee about this man right here and everything. So the education continues. As I mentioned before, hey, man, school, young, doing all that type of stuff. The books, very important. The history books, the science books, the math books, paying attention to your teachers, being respectful for your teachers, learning. Every day you walk into a classroom, every day you walk into a school, every day you open up a book, every day an adult and a teacher speaks. It's an opportunity for you to learn. It's an opportunity for you to grow. It's an opportunity for you to get better. It's an opportunity for you to be successful. It's an opportunity for you to do all of those things. Man, take advantage of it. Whether you're speaking about math, whether you're speaking about English, take advantage of it. There's children in other countries who don't get the opportunities to learn, who don't get the opportunities to grow physically, mentally, spiritually, and all those things by going to school. Take advantage of the opportunity, but yet and still, while you're learning about algebra, while you're learning about geometry, while you're learning about English, while you're learning about pronouns, while you're learning about science, while you're learning about the pediatric table, while you're learning about all those things, man, learn a little bit about some history. Learn about some real history. Learn about things that are surrounding you. Learn about things that are coming from other places other than your friends and other than your environment and other than your community. Grow, learn, listen, educate, shut up, listen, learn, educate from those of a different background, of a different race, of a different color, of a different financial background and such. And learn about the heroes. Learn about the icons. Learn about the trailblazers. Learn about those things they don't teach you in history. Learn about Muhammad Ali. Learn about Jesse Owens. Learn about Jackie Robinson. Learn about Malcolm X. Learn about the Civil Rights Movement. Learn about Billie Jean King. Learn about Martina Navratilova. Learn about those things, because that's what's going to make you grow. That's what's going to help you become the person that you need to be to carry this society, to carry this earth to a place where we need to go. So, baby Bubba, that's what I'm doing in terms of trying to get these kids educated in an environment where they don't have the opportunity, in an environment they don't have the challenges, in an environment where they don't have a situation where they can learn about Muhammad Ali. The fact that someone is 16, 17 years old and they don't know the impact of Muhammad Ali, shameful. The fact that they don't know who Malcolm X is, shameful. The fact that they don't know the impact of Billie Jean King, shameful. And I'm there to educate them in my time, because I don't do geometry, I don't do physics, I don't do calculus, I don't do any of those things. So when a teacher gives me a bum ass type of lesson plan to do, in terms of kids know what to do, let's let them do it, I'm like, okay, let me call up my buddies and let me start educating them on some real things. Wendell's World in Sports, thank you very much for that rant. Wendell's World in Sports, I'm your host. You got that, Kaylee? Thank you very much for that rant. You got that there, Shauna? You got that there, Charles? You got that there, Tedford? You got that there, Jenna? You got that there, Rafa? You got that there, Anthony? You got that there, Chase? Wendell's World in Sports, I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. All right, speaking about what's happening in the world of basketball, my Halle Berry, my Layla Roshan, my Vivica A. Fox, my loves of my life, my wifeys, my Beyonces without Jay-Z. NBA news, training camp started this week. Again, Boston Celtics suspending head coach Ime Udoka for the entire 2022-23 NBA season. Reportedly, Udoka was suspended for having what was an improper, intimate, consensual relationship with a female Celtics staff member, which is in violation of the franchise's code of conduct. The lengthy investigation was done by an independent law firm found to have violated that Udoka had violated multiple team policies, according to the Athletic Sharp Serenia. The Celtics became aware of the relationship in July, but the franchise did not get involved until he allegedly made quote-unquote unwanted comments to the women or to the woman in the relationship. According to a report from TMZ, the woman that had the affair with Udoka helped make all of his travel arrangements, and that job sometimes included organizing travel for his fiancée, Nia Long. If you don't know, the beautiful, awesome Nubian queen and princess Nia Long has been in a relationship with Udoka since 2010. They've been engaged since 2015, and they have one child together. Sources connected to the couple and the NBA franchise told TMZ that one of the staffers' duties included planning Udoka's team-related travel, and were told she was also involved in booking travel for Nia to come to Boston or to road games. And here's the worst part, according to sources, the employee had a hand in Nia's arrangement to move to Boston permanently. Long had just moved east a little over 2 weeks ago with their 10-year-old son. Man, and she was apparently blindsided by news of Udoka's affair. Whew, man. So Udoka was told in July that the team would be taking action over this improper relationship, and he left her out to dry like that. Man, That's rough, man. Here's the thing that's kind of complicated, I guess, in terms of giving my thoughts and opinions about this, because the Celtics have been so vague about exactly what the violation was. I mean, how do we work out improper, intimate, consensual relationship with a female staff member? What did that mean? That he was having sex with someone he shouldn't have been having sex with, even though the person that he was having sex with, she was complicit and compliant and agreeing to this. And the bad thing was that she was the wife of one of the Celtics staff members, so he's being punished for having a relationship or cheating on the having a relationship, a sexual relationship, or any kind of relationship with someone of another man's, not property, but another man's, messing with another man's marriage. That's the violation that is going to put him out for the entire 2022-2023 NBA season. Where do we go in debating this? Because we don't know. I don't know what an improper, intimate, consensual relationship is. Because if it's improper, then how could it be consensual? It could be improper in terms of he shouldn't have been doing it. Like, these two people shouldn't have been cheating on their spouses. That's improper, but it was consensual. So how was there some type of crime? Was there something written in Udoka's contract stating that if he did something like this, or if he violated this, that something like this would happen? And now we're getting leaks, and we're getting innuendos, and we're getting rumors, and we're getting whispers about, well, it could be worse, and what really happened was even dirtier than we think, and this, that, and the other, and Udoka was wrong with. I don't know what that is. I can't even right now fathom what that could be. A lot of times when something like this would happen, it would be a situation where he was doing dirty, not just with her, but with a multitude of women, that he himself was creating a hostile, uncomfortable, sexual harassing type of environment in the workplace. Is that it? I don't know, because reportedly he was suspended for having an improper, intimate, consensual relationship with a Celtics staff member, with a female Celtics staff member. Not members, or not females. So it's not more than one, I don't think, right? And if it was a situation where he was committing some type of sexual assault, I don't think that he would be suspended for the entire year. I think he would just be fired, right? I mean, I don't understand. I'm wondering when the other shoe is going to drop in terms of if this was a situation, because Brad Stevens, the general manager, president of basketball operations for the Celtics, and the owner, was at the press conference on Friday, and Brad Stevens was emotionally breaking down, getting emotional about how he in some way let down the female staffers who worked for him. Well, what does that mean? So I don't think that the female staffers or the female employees who were working for the Celtics, if these two were having a consensual relationship, albeit improper, intimate relationship, how would that affect them? I don't know. Did Udoka try to get with them, and then he just went from female to female until he finally found one? Did he coerce her? Did he blackmail her? I mean, was this a situation where he was having a improper, intimate, consensual relationship with a female Celtics staff member that could affect their position if they didn't keep quiet, if they didn't go along? I don't know. And when you have all these questions about what's happening and you don't have an answer, where do you go? How do you place judgment or blame? Where do we go in terms of who's the bad guy, who's the bad gal, who's in this whole deal? What degree or level do we give Ime Udoka when we don't know? Is he a horrible human being? Is he just a guy who sucks because he cheated on his wife? Or his fiance? Where do we go? Is he a misogynistic pig? Where do we go with this? I don't know, because there hasn't been a situation where we have received any more information. I don't know if we are ever going to receive any more information in going with this. So I don't feel comfortable in terms of talking about this in absolutes, because I don't have enough information to go by to say, oh man, Udoka, how could you do this? This is horrible. This is terrible. You're a horrible person. You're a scumbag. You're this, you're that. I mean, cheating on Nia Long, that's, I don't know how, I mean, that's to be cheating on Nia Long, you know, from a guy who, you know, from a guy in my situation right now, you're going to cheat on Nia Long. I mean, that kind of upsets me. I mean, if you bring me somebody from the outside looking in, I don't know Nia Long personally, but from the outside looking in, a strong, attractive, beautiful, sexy looking, intelligent Nubian princess, I ain't throwing that away. That staff member for the Celtics organization, she better be Beyonce times 10, including the money for me to do something stupid like cheating on Nia Long with. I have no idea. I don't know how many hours. I don't know how lonely a man can get for him to go ahead and cheat on Nia Long. But I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It's very hard. I mean, is this the first time Phil Jackson hooked up with GD Buss? I mean, this is not the first time that coaches or players or something like that had intimate relations with somebody. I mean, if you remember the Jason Kidd, Jimmy Jackson, Jamal Mashburn situation with Tony Braxton, rumor, all that stuff that went down. I mean, this type of situation is not foreign, or, you know, this rarely happens in the NBA. But then again, we don't know. We don't know exactly what went down. And is the woman going to come forward? They say that she's still employed by the Boston Celtics. Is she ever going to come out and say exactly what happened? Do any other women, the Celtics organization, who was witness to this, who knew about this, who had knowledge about this, are they going to come out and snitch and do the tell-all about what happened? Is somebody going to be writing a book? Is somebody going to be doing a documentary? Is somebody going to give us any knowledge? In a situation like this, where women are still trying to fight for true equality, where the Me Too movement is still trying to gain some legs in terms of trying to get true equality to women, because we're still not there yet, if this could be something to where we're missing an opportunity by not discussing this, for women to advance even more in terms of learning, educating myself and other men in terms of what's going on and what's happening, in terms of what some of the obstacles and some of the things that women have to overcome in the workplace. Are we missing out an opportunity for men who are willing to heed the lessons and education that women can be teaching us? Are we missing out on an opportunity like this because the Celtics decided to sweep this under the rug? I don't know. Did what Ime Udoka did even go to the level to where we could even use something like that as an educational tool to teach our boys and to teach our girls the proper way to deal with people, a proper relationship to have, a proper working relationship to have, just in terms of treating the opposite sex with respect and dignity and stuff? Is there anything there that we can use, that we can shine light to and bring down and educate to our younger folks, so the next generation won't be put in this position, whether you're a male or a female? I don't know. I don't know, because Udoka's not talking, the Celtics aren't talking, none of the staff members are talking, Wojnarowski hasn't reported anything, Sherenia hasn't reported anything, David Aldridge hasn't reported anything, Brian Windhorst hasn't reported anything. We don't know. Howard Beck and Chris Mannix, they haven't reported anything new about this. So I don't know. I have no idea what's going to be happening. Now, Udoka, he shared a statement following the incident by saying, "I want to apologize to our players, fans, the entire Celtics organization, and my family for letting them down. I am sorry for putting the team in this difficult situation. I accept the team's decision. Out of respect for everyone involved, I will have no further comment." Now, look, I'm not a PR guy, and these guys who are doing this stuff for the Celtics, they're way better at this than I am, so I'm not going to try to tell them how to do their job, because I'm not that arrogant or ignorant. But if it was me and I was writing something for Udoka, or if it was me, if I was in Udoka's shoes, here's what my statement would be. Here's what I would have said. I want to sincerely apologize to my family, Brad Stevens, and the entire Celtics organization, our players and fans, for my actions in breaking your trust and faith in me. I take full responsibility for the awful and devastating situation I have put people who I love and adore in, and fully expect the punishment given to me. I will take this time to do everything humanly possible to learn from this and come back a better person, partner, employee, and human being. Out of respect for everyone involved, I will have no further comment. That's what I would have said. I would have really put the emphasis on, Nia, I'm so doggone sorry. I am so doggone sorry for what I did. Brad, I'm sorry because you're the one that hired me. The Celtics organizations, you're the one that gave Brad the go-ahead to hire me. So I just obliterated your trust in me. The players the players I apologize to. The friends, or excuse me, the fans, who gives a fuck about them? But it's those, my family, my son, my parents, my aunts, my uncles, any kin folks. I am so sorry for, Mama and Daddy didn't raise me to do this. So that's what I would have been focusing on. And then, if he's sincere about trying to do everything humanly possible to come back a better person and partner to learn from this, we don't know. We don't know. But I don't know in terms of improper, intimate, consensual relationship. I have no idea what that means. Could have been based on a relationship based on threats or blackmail because of the consensual nature, right? I don't know. Here's the deal, though, man. I'm just hoping that we need to go there with this. If Ime Udoka was cheating on Nia Long with a white woman, black community and black women, I don't know if they'll forgive him. Brothers might be able to forgive him in time. Black women, talking about as a whole, as the majority, Ime, you're done. You don't mess around with Nia Long. Ask Tiki Barber about doing a black woman dirty to get with a white woman. Black women don't play that shit. So it's like, woo, it's bad enough that you cheated on her. I mean, not like black women are going to be like, hey, at least she's black, no big deal. It's bad enough that you cheated on her. We're already upset about that. But if you're going to go ahead and do it with a white woman, I don't give a damn if she looks like Scarlett Johansson. I don't care what she looks like. You toast. You toast. Joe Mazzulla was going to be the team's interim head coach for the season. He served as the assistant for the Celtics in 2019 with Brad Stevens. And here's a guy who comes with his own level of controversy. In 2009, he was arrested and charged with domestic battery, allegedly grabbing a woman by the neck and choking her at a bar while he was a West Virginia student and basketball player. So you go from what Udoka had done to promote a guy who was charged with domestic battery. So if he can coach, he can coach. So, I don't know. Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. Man, it's going long, so I'm going to get out of here with this. I'll talk about college football later. Look, Oklahoma losing to Kansas State. Pooey. DJ Uiagalelei, best game of his career. Clemson overtaking Wake Forest. That defense for Clemson, I don't know if that's going to be working long term. Mentioned Kansas State Kansas State beating Oklahoma third time in 4 years. Top three teams in the country: Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, in no particular order. Did what he needed to do, with Ohio State probably looking the best out of all of them, beating up on Wisconsin to start Big Ten play, Alabama beating up on Vanderbilt SEC play, and then Georgia sleepwalking through Kent State to get them ready for their next four games in SEC play. So, Miami losing to Middle Tennessee State. Embarrassing. Honeymoon is over for Mario Cristobal. Well, that's about it, right? That's all I can think about. I need to start doing a little bit more in-depth things in college basketball or football, and I will do that. But let me end with this whole Robert Sarver situation in terms of released a statement in which he announced that he has begun the process of selling the Phoenix Suns and Mercury. A lengthy investigation recently released shows Sarver oversaw a toxic and offensive workplace for almost 20 years. He repeatedly used the word nigger, even after multiple employees told him it was inappropriate. Sarver suggested an employee's wife likely gave good blowjobs. He declared that he hated diversity, made remarks about the size of an employee's genitalia, forwarded pornographic material and sex jokes to male employees, told a pregnant employee she wouldn't be able to do her job effectively because she would soon be breastfeeding. So this ass clown in a statement said, "Words that I deeply regret," even though at the beginning of the investigation he said, "No way, no how have I ever used those words or ever done any of those actions." But what he said in the statement was that words that I deeply regret now overshadow nearly 2 decades of building organizations that brought people together and strengthened the Phoenix area through the unifying power of professional men's and women's basketball. As a man of faith, I believe in atonement and the path for forgiveness. I expect that the commissioner's 1-year suspension would provide the time for me to focus, make amends, and remove my personal controversy from the team that I and so many fans love. But in our current unforgiving climate, it has become painfully clear that that is no longer possible. That whatever good I have done or could still do is outweighed by things I have said in the past. For those reasons, I am beginning the process of seeking buyers for the Suns and Mercury. What a jackass! What a clueless! The man's a billionaire, so I'm not going to use any type of words like stupid or ignorant in terms of his intelligence or acumen, but just in terms of when you get to be that rich, when you get to be that privileged, when you get to that financial bracket or whatever, when you get to that type of power. Just the world around you, you become that clueless. What is Robert Sarver's world to where he would think that he's a victim? What world is Robert Sarver in? How many billions of dollars did you need to have of your Robert Sarver to think that somehow, some way you were a victim? You were a victim? You were a victim of what? That somehow in this unforgiving climate of fake news, or what were you talking about? You sound like the Antichrist that was the president for 4 years in name only, put there by a bunch of dummies who were dumb and stupid enough to vote for him. What in the world are we talking about with Robert Sarver? What world are you living in? How rich do you have to be? I would hate to be. Man, I tell you what, man, you can give me Robert Sarver's money and power and cars and materialistic things. Take it all away. If I'm going to be that clueless, if I'm going to be that out of touch, if I'm going to be that ignorant about the world around me, if I'm going to be that privileged, if I'm going to be that arrogant, if I'm going to be that lost in terms of what the real world is all about, because I really don't need to live in the real world because I'm a billionaire, I'd rather live in the real world. I would. Take away the money, take away the power, take away the bank account, take away the trips, take away the cruises, take away the women, take away the lifestyle, take away the vacation, take away all that stuff that comes with having the power and the privilege of Robert Sarver. All the materialistic things that have blinded him to seeing what the world is all about. And because you're super duper rich, outstandingly, unbelievably rich, that somehow, some way, you don't need to play by those rules. I want to play by those rules. I want to play by the rules where I need to show women respect. I want to play by the rules where I need to show minorities in my community some respect. I want to live in a world to where I show every human being who deserves it some respect and not be a bully and not be a jackass and not be an asshole and not be a piece of shit and not be a worthless human being in terms of how I treat others. Take all the money, take all the cars, take all the houses, take all the women, take them. Get along. I don't want it. I don't want it. If that's the way I'm going to end up. Robert Sarver, good riddance. Get lost. You and Donald Sterling, you two, buy something else and, kick back a couple of the cold ones and just lament on how the world has treated you wrong. Unflippin' believable. All right, I'm out of here. I want to thank everybody for listening to my podcast. Woo, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been awesome. It's been fantastic. I want to thank you so much. Remember, as always, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of this earth, people of this planet, do what we need to do what we can do to befriend, to have a conversation with someone of a different race, of a different gender, of a different political affiliation, of a different financial background, different parts of the world, different everything, man. Try to find somebody and have a conversation, listen and learn and shut up and take something from them in terms of what they go through, what they do on an everyday. Take that and apply it to those around for love, for peace, for unity, for everything in terms of positivity, moving this world, moving this country, moving this society in the right direction. It's too late for my generation. I've been embedded in too much ignorance and selfishness and dividedness to really live in a society that I would love to live in, where truly people are judged by who they are as human beings, not by anything else. But our saving grace to get us into heaven is the fact that we can take some of the lessons learned, continue to evolve, continue to grow, and while we may not get there, depending upon how much longer you live, do what you need to do to pass those gifts on to the younger generation so they can understand, so they can be better people than we are when they reach our age. It would be fantastic, and it would be something that I would highly recommend. Wendell's World in Sports. Wendell Wallace here. Man, get me out of here with some music.